Thursday, October 10th, 23 work session of the Harnett County Board of Commissioners, and I will ask Vice Chairman Bill Morris to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Bill, stand please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You will please pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings we receive. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as citizens for Harnett County, and please give us the guidance to govern and do what's best for our constituents. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We will go ahead and get started, and first on the list, we will recognize the graduates from the paramedic school. Mr. Larry Smith, you want to come up?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've got 4 of our graduates with us this morning. Unfortunately, because of operational needs and support and exercise, 2 of them are on trucks this morning. So I've got Micah Ellington and Elena Melvin are on trucks this morning. We wish we could have had them here this morning. First of all, I would like to thank county management and especially this board for believing in this concept we brought to you about a year ago. Your support has meant a lot to this whole team. We had a graduation for these folks Friday night. Which was very successful. I do appreciate the show from county management and Desiree for sticking with us the whole time. She got some great photos for us. And it was just a good evening. But I brought with me today Michael Borbis, Jennifer Davis, William Slaughter, and Nathan Trotman. Those are the 4 graduates that we brought with you this morning. So,
Congratulations.
guys, well, thank you for it.
No.
Stand up so we can see you. There we go.
Have them come
All right. They're a little shy.
We'll have them come on up and we'll get a picture. I don't see Desiree in here right now, so
Somebody
good
got a
deal.
phone.
Commissioners, join me up front.
Go up there.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you.
They got it.
Oh, we got 5, I got 5.
Good job.
Back up again for the second. I'm back up again.
Yes, sir. You're up again if you want to give us an update on the community paramedicine cert.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the community paramedic post-overdose response team this morning, and I've got David Cowan. Come on up, Dave. He is our assistant medical director, and he kind of leads the charge on this team. Leslie Owens, who's a community paramedic. Come on up. And Jennifer Haney, a community paramedic. I'm going to go ahead and let David kind of give you an update on where they're at and where we're heading for the future.
Well, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to come up and speak with you all and update you on the exciting progress that we're making. So I stepped into this role in April of this year, and one of the immediate big tasks that we wanted to deal with was this opioid pandemic and epidemic that we're seeing in the county. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of had our say in that and made sure that we got EMS involved with that. And one of the models that we wanted to imitate was this post-overdose response team. It's one that's been tried and true throughout the state, and one that we certainly wanted to get involved with. The medical director conference that we went to in May, this was a big topic that a lot of the counties were getting involved with, and the state office had recommended. So we figured that was well housed in our community paramedic program, and I kind of got plugged in with Jennifer and Leslie. They were already doing a lot of great things, especially with our population of patients that we see a lot in the hospital, as well as repeat callers that have a lot of needs due to chronic health issues. So we figured that was kind of a logical place to plug in. As of June 1st, we initiated Leave Behind Narcan, as well as, so ultimately, if a patient was resuscitated with Narcan as a result of a suspected opioid overdose, we would make sure Narcan got left behind with them, as well as some instructions on how to use that. As well as our community paramedic team followed up. The goal was within 24 to 48 hours by phone, and as we got more comfortable in that role, also in person, driving out and seeing these families and these patients. So that was sort of phase one. At that point, we'd also talked to the state a little bit and had gotten involved with some of their resources, as well as the opioid task force. The next phase came in actually as of August 1. So the next phase is medication-assisted treatment. And this is with Suboxone, which is a medication that's an opioid replacement almost, if you will. And the goal being that we can see these patients do leave behind Narcan, which is what's considered risk reduction, harm reduction. If it occurs, at least there's a means to resuscitate these patients and hopefully prevent bad outcomes. But with the introduction of Suboxone, we can actually see these patients and get them started on this medication for up to 7 days while we work on that transfer of care over to what's considered an office-based treatment. So ultimately, us getting them plugged in with a provider that can continue that treatment and hopefully continue that road to recovery. So we've made a lot of big strides, and we're very very appreciative to be part of the overall medical community and progress that's going on in the county with this through the task force and through our community partners as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you so much.
Back here.
Sir, you're up again. Discuss
All
a
right.
request from the Andrew Fire Department regarding construction of the new station.
I've got Chief 2 from Andrew Fire Department with me. Andrew Fire Department says seeking approval from the board to construct a new fire station in the 700 block of Mangum Road. I've included a map in there. They've purchased property there, 2.52 acres. They're looking at putting a new station there on the Lillington side of the new bypass at a cost between $4 to $5 million. Again, the property has been purchased. They've done the original letter, I believe, said 7,000 square feet. But after speaking with their designer, after they were finished with that, they were looking closer to 8,000 square feet station is what they'd look at. They're looking at, that's between $450 to $525 per square foot is that cost that they're looking at right now. That remainder amount of money that they're looking at spending would be used to buy apparatus for the station and some additional equipment for that. This is going to improve their response times for that area around the new bypass once that's completed. And they're going to fund this with a loan from the USDA. Any questions?
The 4.5 to 5 million, does that include the new truck?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it sure
It
does.
does.
It
Okay.
does.
And I have a question. You say you're going to fund it how?
Through the USDA, a loan through the USDA.
To the loan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to ask my fellow commissioners to join me in requesting that HRW run the water and sewer line from Neals Creek Church Road down to wherever the meter gets set at this property. I think I've had estimates anywhere from 80,000 up to 150,000. But rather than have to, Andrew Black River have to borrow money to run a water line when they are a county entity, I think that's something we should do for them.
Are you putting that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would include that in the motion to go on the consent agenda.
Question?
Since it's not a voting motion, would it be the pleasure of the board?
Yeah,
to,
okay, put it
I
on, that's
don't
what I was
have a
talking about,
problem.
put it on for next week.
I don't have a problem with it. I was just going to ask that we discuss with HR.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all I asked, that question. Has it been discussed with them before we make?
Has it been discussed with Andrew Black River?
No,
Thank you,
HRW.
With HRW? No,
It-
it hasn't.
I believe Commissioner Weatherspoon is trying to get some direction to HRW.
Okay,
and
that's
wants the
fine.
support of the board to run a water line
I understand that, but I just don't want to
Well,
discuss it.
It has been
Thank
discussed
you.
with HRW, but it hasn't been discussed about them running the lines.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
got the information about what lines were needed and that type of thing. Now, if there may be a lift station that's needed at the fire department. That would be Angela Black River's responsibility.
So we're talking about water and sewer.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. So there's no water on Mangum Road at this time.
yes, there is. Oh, no, I think there is some water on Mangum Road.
Just need a bigger line, is that
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
but-
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, here, I will, want to handle one of these items at a time.
Yeah,
It's the
let's-
pleasure of the board to approve the request for the new fire station for Black River.
Yeah.
Pleasure of the board to add this consent agenda for next
Do
week
it.
for approval.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll go ahead and add that on to next week's agenda for
Yeah.
approval. And then can we also add something on the consent agenda if it's the pleasure of the board in order to direct HRW to run this water line and sewage lines to,
We'll make it a additional item
okay,
on the agenda.
okay.
Yeah,
Then
that's fine.
That way, if you wanted to pull it, you could.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
One other question, and we get this a lot from citizens, about the need for community meeting space. In your new fire department, building, will there be space that the community could use for meetings and that type of thing?
There will be a room there, just like we have at Andrew Main Station. It won't be as large because the building's not going to be as large, but there will be accommodations if they need to have a community meeting for whatever reason.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, sir, you're up again. Discuss approval
Last-
for Homeland Security grant.
Last thing, I promise. What I've got is we've got some Homeland Security money that comes down through the state of North Carolina. We've been awarded $56,890.90. $19,775 of that will be used to purchase a new variable message board, like our outdated electronic board that we've got. It's a mobile unit that we use. And then another $37,115 will be used to purchase a trailer for the Swiftwater Rescue Team, which is housed out of Boys Creek. That'll help consolidate a lot of their equipment that they're kind of toting in pickup trucks right now. And there are no cost shares for this grant. This is strictly right to us.
Any questions or comments? Pleasure of the board to go ahead and add this to the consent agenda.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and add this to the consent agenda for next week as well, Madam Clerk.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, next up, discuss a request for permission to accept the American Library Association's Community Connect. Good morning, Miss Angela McCauley. How you
Good
doing?
morning. I'm here just to request approval to receive an American Library Association grant. This is a digital grant. It was awarded to the Angier Public Library. The grant will provide 5 laptops, 5 hotspots, hotspot service for 12 months, and an additional $2,000 to cover technology programs to the community. The value of the grant is $7,844.90, and there's no match required.
Any questions or comments?
I think we should put it on the agenda.
Pleasure of the board to add this consent agenda.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and add this next week as well, ma'am. Thank you very much. Great, Development Services, you've got a few briefings for us. Several.
Yes, sir. Good morning. We do have several coming before you this morning. Sarah Arbor, Harnett County Development Services. So we are bringing 6 items before you all this morning, 2 of which are items that were mentioned at the September work session, and we'll just review those kind of quickly again this morning, just for a refresher. First up is our rezoning petition for a requested zoning change from RA40 to RA30. Applicant is Greenfield Communities. And the property is a 35-acre tract located off of Piney Grove Rawls Road, just to the south of the Serenity subdivision, and in between the Serenity subdivision and the Regalwood subdivision there. So the property is currently undeveloped. Their surrounding land uses consist of single-family residences and agricultural activities. There's, of course, a Serenity planned unit development there just to the north, pretty large development, of course, about 573 acres, about 1,100 units there. So there will be public water and public sewer available for the site. As you can see there on the zoning district compatibility map, there's some RA30 located within the vicinity. Land use classification map shows that this is in the agricultural and rural residential. There's photos of the site that have been provided from your review. Those first several photos there are, of course, taken from the Serenity subdivision, so it's a view of the property from there. And then those next two are from the Regalwood subdivision, and then there's the view from Piney Grove Rawls Road. So staff is recommending approval of this request to rezone. We were able to kind of go through our evaluation and check all of the boxes, except for it's not completely compatible with the land use designation. However, since sewer's been introduced to the area, and with the new development patterns, it is, while maybe not fully compatible with the land use, it is compatible with the development that's taking place in the area. At the planning board meeting on September 5th, they voted unanimously 4-0 to recommend approval. There were several residents present at the planning board meeting to speak in opposition. The main concern was a potential connection to the Regalwood subdivision, road stub to Sherman Road. Our understanding is, there's an agreement between NCDOT and the developer that's being worked out to try to take care of this issue. And staff is open for any questions.
Any questions?
My understanding is that agreement has been agreed upon by your department, DOT, and Greenfield. Is that
Okay.
correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
It is. So there's no more issue with Sherman Drive? Okay. I just want to make sure.
Thank you. All right, if there's no other questions, we'll move on to our next petition to rezone here. All righty, thank you. So again, this item has come before you at the.
However, since so many residents did show up at the planning board, I mean, they could very well still show up in opposition, but that situation should be resolved.
Yeah. Well, and I have notified them of the agreement between Greenfield and DOT and Development System, Harnett County.
Sounds good.
I won't say Development System, I'll say Harnett County. So they may show up, but I doubt it.
Right. Just wanted to.
Yeah.
You never know, right?
Yeah, you never know. Thank you, Jay.
All right, so our next request to rezone is, again, this came before you, the September work session. This is a 9.69 acre property requesting to go from the RA20M to commercial. It's on US 401 North. The applicant is a CE group. So they actually have, there's a total of 3 applications that they have been, and you will hear the other 2 of them this morning as well, all coming from a 115 acre property that was cut into 3 tracts. So this is one here. The property is currently vacant, unimproved site, which is used for agricultural purposes. Surrounding land uses consist of single-family residence and agricultural activities. There are several non-residential uses located in the vicinity as well. For services available to the site, there's public water available. And the traffic counts for the section of US 401 North are about 11,000 trips a day. On the zoning district compatibility map, you can see the commercial located close there just to the south. Land use compatibility map shows that this property is within the employment mixed use land use as well as the rural center development node. So this is an area of the county where we're looking to spur some economic development. There's been photos of the site provided for your review there. Looking along 401. And through staff's evaluation, we were able to support this request to rezone, mainly because of the compatibility with the existing land use classifications there. And at the September 5th Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board did vote 4-0 to recommend approval of the zoning change. There was one resident who was present to speak in opposition. His concern was that while there may be some commercial uses that could be compatible here, maybe there would be others that would have a larger impact and increase noise, light, and air pollution. And staff is open for any questions.
So, ask the question. So this is commercial, going to be used for commercial purpose?
Yes, ma'am.
Not
That's
building
correct.
houses and all of that, right?
No, ma'am. It's going to
Okay.
their requesting
I
commercial.
want to make sure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to our next rezoning request. It's to go from the RA30 zoning district to commercial. This is the same applicant, the CE Group, just across US 401 there. So this property is about 31 acres located in the Hectors Creek Township, also right there in Kipling area. The property is currently vacant and unimproved, used for agricultural purposes. The surrounding land uses consist of single-family residence and agricultural activities with, again, various non-residential uses located nearby. Services available for this property include public water, and it's undetermined at this time whether or not it will be able to utilize sewer. So there's no traffic counts available for Kipling Church Road. We did provide traffic counts for US 401 North. However, the property does not have direct access to US 401 North because of the railroad there, but it's about 11,000 daily trips. And the photos shown there just to show the Kipling Church Road where it dead ends and then the where it terminates into Neil Smith Road there utilizes a yield sign for traffic control. Again, looking at the zoning compatibility map, you can see that there's commercial located just to the south. Looking at the land use classification compatibility, you can see that this is also, again, located in two of our development nodes. So this is in an area where we're looking to have some commercial growth. There have been photos of the site provided for your review. These photos here are taken from US 401 from across the railroad. And these photos here from the Kipling Church Road. Right, so through staff's evaluation, we were able to support the request to rezone this property, mainly because of its compatibility with the underlying land uses. At the October 2nd Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend denial of the proposed rezoning. It was based on limited road access and the potential impact to the surrounding property owners. There were several residents from the Kipling neighborhood there who were present and also several spoke in opposition. Their main concern was the access to Kipling Church Road and the impact that could have there. Also for the safety of the children who play at the church, the preservation of the area's history and the heritage of the residents in this area, and the impacts to the wildlife population. So that's what we heard from the residents at the planning board meeting. And staff is now open for any questions. Thank you.
Questions?
This tract of land, when it was presented at the planning board by the applicant's engineer, he didn't have a clue what he was talking about. There are alternative methods of ingress and egress to this property. There's discussions underway that will eliminate the use of Kipling Road. Therefore, I make a motion that we table this item and the next item, 2308-0004, until November the 20th. think, let's see. No, excuse me, until November the 28th.
Do any of the commissioners have an issue with moving proposed zoning change plan 2308 0002 and
Table it
also
now.
2308 0004, tabling it until November, is it 28th, sir? What was the date?
28th.
Until November 28th.
I have a question on that. I mean, if the planning board denied it, so what is it for us to discuss?
Well, the Development Services recommend approving it. And there's some things that have to be worked out as far as ingress egress that will take out most of the arguments that were presented against this plan.
Want to hear from him?
That's absolutely fine. I think this meeting's already been noticed, so we've already sent out the notification for this meeting. We can't just table it here. We'll need to go to the meeting, and if you want to table it at the meeting, you certainly can do it at that point, but you can't do it here.
You could table it, or the applicant could just withdraw it for the moment.
Or you could withdraw it, or the applicant could withdraw it. Obviously, the applicant's not here today, but we could, if that's something.
Could they withdraw it from our meeting next week and then resubmit it for the first meeting in December, which would put it on the 11/28 agenda?
Advertise it again.
I think so. We would just have to.
You got to do a date and time specific. We'll just announce it as that.
Yeah.
So in order to not re-advertise because of the deadlines.
If you don't want to re-advertise, where I can see that, you need to table it then.
That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I
We
think
can
too. If you
table it at
you
the
don't want to
meeting.
re-advertise, it needs to be
Okay, we
specifically
can table it.
tabled at that meeting.
Next week.
So we'll go ahead and table it. We'll keep it going here.
It'll come up and we'll present as normal, and then you can say the reasoning behind it, whatever you think at that point, and table it at that point. That'd be the best way to cleanly
Sounds
do
We
it.
could go ahead and do the public hearing. All right. Good.
Can you do a public hearing that particular
Well,
day?
yeah, we could take care of the public hearing and then.
You could go through the whole
that
process.
way the
if you
public
wanted
hearing
to,
is
and
already
then-
taken
and then
care
say,
of.
Exactly.
Hear what the applicant
Don't have to
actually
re-advertise,
has,
yeah.
and then
That's
make
right.
a decision at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and keep
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Is there any other questions or comments about Plan 2308 0002? Is there any other questions or comments regarding this proposed change? All right, well, if you would like to move on to 2308 0004 then.
All right, so this next request to rezone is the same applicant for the adjacent property. It's CE Group Incorporated. They're requesting to rezone from the RA30 to the RA20R. Property is about 74 acres, located in the Hector's Creek and Black River Township. The property is currently vacant and unimproved, used for agricultural activities. Surrounding land uses are the agricultural uses, single-family homes. There is the Matthews Landing development that is located within the town of Lillington, as adjacent to this property. And so, for services available for this property, there's water. Sewer is been unverified at this time. And again, traffic counts for not available for Kipling Church Road. Zoning compatibility here, you can see there's some RA20R located within the vicinity. It is located right next to the Lillington ETJ as well. Land use classification shows that this property is a majority medium density residential. Photos of the site provided for your review here. These are all taken from Kipling Church Road. So through staff's evaluation, we were able to support this petition to rezone the property, mainly because of the compatibility with existing land use classification, medium density residential. So this case was tabled once at the planning board before their meeting last week on the 2nd, where they voted unanimously 5-0 to recommend denial of the rezoning. The board stated concerns about, again, limited road network and the possible impacts to the adjacent community. There were several residents who spoke in opposition from the Kipling neighborhood. Their chief complaints were, again, about the access onto Kipling Church Road, as well as the ability for the current infrastructure to support higher residential density and preserving the historic nature and the community of the residents who are currently living there. And staff is now open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much on that one.
Okay. And if there's no questions, staff will just move on to the next rezoning request. Thank you. Right, so this request to rezone is coming before you from the Triangle Land Partners, LLC. They're requesting a rezone of property to RE30 to the RE20R. It's approximately 121 acres located out on McDougald Road in Lillington. The property is a large parcel, which is currently used for agricultural purposes. There is a small private cemetery located on the property. There's also Spenceway Lane, which crosses through the property in the northwest corner and provides access to several homes to the south and the west here. As far as the services available for the property, there's public water and the transportation for the property. The daily traffic counts were not available for McDougald Road. The site distances here for the site have been described as they're very poor. If you're facing west, that's because of a pretty sharp curve that's located there in the road. Looking east is a little bit better. There's also a curve there, depending on where you are in the property. There's also some topography that affects your view if you're trying to pull out of the existing driveways there. Zoning compatibility chart, the map shows that there is some RE20R. However, it's located about half a mile from the site. So this is the area that's pretty well established, RE30. We've provided a compatibility design concept table. So this has been provided just to kind of give an idea, if this property were to go and to be developed as a residential subdivision, there are options just that are already kind of natural built into the code for getting down to a smaller lot size, potential of getting down to 20,000 square feet, which is that base minimum lot size for the requested zoning district. Land use classification, just showing that this property is located within the low density residential land use. And photos of the site provided for your review. These first photos here are from the west. So you can kind of see in that first photo, you can't see the whole curve. It's kind of because of the lay of the land, as well as, but that is a bad curve kind of located in the western part of the property. Your photos of the site here. Just looking east. That is the subdivision located just across the way. So through staff's evaluation, staff did not support this request to rezone. We did recommend denial based on the incompatibility with the existing land use classification, as well as the impact to the surrounding area. At the October 2nd the planning board voted 4-1 to recommend denial of the proposed rezoning. They based their denial on the concerns stated by the residents. There were several residents of the area, both from the subdivision directly across the way, as well as some people who live back on Spence Road and along McDougald Road. The chief concern from the residents that lived out there was a potential for an increase in traffic on the section of McDougald Road, traffic safety concerns with the limited sight distance due to the curves in the road and the topography of the land. There's also a concern about loss of farmland from one of the residents down on Spence Way. And staff is now open for any questions. Thank you.
comments?
No, I don't have any question. I know the road. I can understand why it was denied. It's a lot of traffic on that road as it is. And,
By the way, I have a traffic study that was done by the developer. I'll send that to you. I got it yesterday, I believe it was.
I'm still, I don't care what the traffic study.
And here's the thing.
There's a lot of traffic on that road.
Complaining about loss of farmland. The farmland is gone, period. This developer is going to build houses on this land. The question is, does he build 100, and I'm pulling numbers out of the air, or does he build 120? But he's going to build houses here. The farmland's gone.
Well, we don't need to get rid of all of the farmland. I totally disagree with that.
It's already gone. When the
Well,
developer-
that's your assumption.
No, when the developer bought it, Commissioner, it was no longer farmland. Now, if somebody wants it to be farmland, they need to go buy the land from the developer, and they can farm it.
Well, I agree with the planning board. I agree to the denial. So we'll see when they have a public hearing what people got to say about it. I think that's what we should do. Wait, put it on the agenda and let them speak for themselves. This county cannot be just all houses.
Any other questions or comments regarding this proposed zoning request? We can move
All right.
on to the next one.
Thank you so much.
Last and final one.
Thank you, Commissioners. Jay Sykes Development Services to present a quick text amendment application. This is from a citizen for Article 5 of the UDO, which is a table of uses as well as the regulations. Their request was to add vehicle sales, leasing, and rental regulations as a special use to the residential areas. Right now, that's just solely just within the non-residential uses. Typically, obviously in the infancy stages of zoning, sales, leasing would have been a large car lot. Lately we've had some like a DMV office or something come, and we've been able to take that as a special use within a residential office, within a residential area as an office, and then they could also have cars there for sale. Most of the time, a large car lot is in a commercial area. This specific request is by the citizen whom has actually U-Haul trailers, and they have a large parcel out on right down from Aloha Zoo in that area of 87, and they rent U-Haul trailers and trucks just as a second form of income. The U-Haul, just a little specific about the business itself, actually. U-Haul actually comes and takes the trucks off-site to do any sort of maintenance, and if anything's not being rented, U-Haul actually takes it back. So they're kind of a private contractor, if you will. So basically, as that would be kind of leasing, something like that, anything vehicle associated. So we agreed with the applicant to be able to add this to our ordinance as a special use, and planning board agreed as well and voted unanimously to approve this amendment. Staff's available for any questions.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and add that to the agenda for next week.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day.
You as well. All right, move on to item number 9, discuss a request regarding foster care room and board. Mr. Paul Polinsky, good morning, sir.
All right, good morning. I wanted to come today, and I brought my backup just in case they're needed. As you may know, DSS is responsible to pay the cost of care or the room and board for children that we take into our custody. Right now, we have around 240 children that are in DSS custody. That can change on a daily. Can change daily. The first part I want to talk about, there have been 2 increases in foster care room and board rates by the state since December of 2022. Last budget year, we were able to work with finance and move some funding inside our budget to cover that increase. However, the state increased foster care rates again in July of 2023. This was after we'd already planned our budget for fiscal year 23-24. Currently, we've got enough funding to start the year out, but we do need to increase our foster care room and board funds by $1,300,000 for state foster home care. Now, we are reimbursed that $1.3 million. We are reimbursed at 50% by the state. So that's one good thing. We also, part of that increase, we have federal funds as well. Whether we use state funds or whether we use federal funds depends on how a child comes into our custody. It's based upon the parents' income, if they're able to receive Medicaid, things like that. If they are, then we can pay for their cost of care through federal funds. But we need to increase our 4E foster care, which is our federal funds, by $700,000. The good thing about that, though, we get reimbursed by the feds at 76%. So that's the first issue I have. Also, the second thing, as of November the 16th, the state has said that the counties must start paying what they call for kinship placement. If we have children in our custody and they're able to live with grandma and granddaddy and our uncle, then we can pay those grandparents and those aunts or uncles, those that are actually blood kin, we can pay them half the state foster rate. Say, for example, if the state foster rate on a monthly basis was $500, then we would pay the grandparents or the aunts or uncles $250. We would pay half that rate. This is totally new. This would be a new line in our budget. So we would need to increase, to cover those costs of those children, we would need to increase that line by $450,000 or start that line at $450,000. Like I said, again, we get reimbursed 50% for that. We have about 70 to 80 children right now that we're paying, that we would start paying November the 16th. The state is encouraging county DSSs to move more children, if they can, into kinship placement, because instead of staying with normal foster parents, they're staying with family members. They're staying with grandma and granddaddy. They're staying with aunts or uncles, brothers or sisters. So, that is something that our foster care unit is working on, is trying to increase the number of children that are actually staying with family members instead of foster parents. So I'm asking the board if they would to please consider that. We're mandated to pay this cost. Actually, it would, to the county, if we move all this money, it would be, the cost to the county would be $1,043,000, but that we would get reimbursed from the feds and state $1,407,000 for this. Now, of course, if at the end of the budget year we don't use all this funding, then it would go back into the general fund. Do you have any questions?
Will you repeat that last statement you just made? The total.
The cost to the county would be $1,043,000.
That'd be
That's
after
county funds.
After our reimbursement?
Yes, sir. What will be reimbursed from the state and feds would be $1,407,000. And the cost that we pay out to the foster homes is based on the child's age, so the rates definitely vary. But we've had 2 increases over the last 6 months.
If I may, if I understand you right, you're saying this is an unfunded mandate by the state?
Well, no, we get reimbursement at 50% by the state, but it's something that we're required to do, yes, sir.
You're required to do it, and it was 50 cents on the dollar, and that 50 cents on the dollar, and your best estimate is gonna be over $1 million. So you need $1 million budget.
Yes, sir. And then from the feds, we get reimbursed 76%.
And I'm assuming that you've had conversations with Kimberly and Alan regarding this and where we might find those funds and so on and so forth?
Yes, sir.
And Alan, so what are your thoughts?
Well, as Mr. Polinsky stated, we don't have any choice.
they're required, this is a required program we're required to do. So we're going to have to find funding to cover it. So I know Ms. Honeycutt has been working with them, and I'm not sure exactly where they located that funding at. I have some ideas and some thoughts myself, but I know she's got some notes back in her office, and I've seen some of that. I just hadn't looked at it closely.
Very good. So we'll have that information at our next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I've got a question. I know it's something that we, it's a mandate that we have to do, but in the past, how the state been doing it? Have the state been paying these grandparents or family members?
No, ma'am. This
They-
is
they have
something that is
not.
totally
This is something
new.
totally new.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And we're happy to see that on our end.
Yeah, it makes
Because
sense.
it's a cost savings for the county, it's a cost savings for the state.
Right.
But then you have, I mean, I know several grandparents that are actually looking after grandchildren, and a lot of those are retired or have their Social Security, so any extra funding that they can get to help cover, the cost of those children definitely would help them out.
I understand that, and I think it's a good thing.
But it's totally new, and like I said, the state is pushing, I wouldn't say pushing, but they're asking DSS to try to consider kinship before you actually go into private foster care.
Right, because there are so many of these grandparents now raising their kids. They're having to raise these kids rather than putting them in foster homes. So I
Yes, ma'am.
totally agree with that.
Pleasure of the board to add this to the agenda next week as a separate line item until we can hear from the finance director. That be good?
Yeah.
Separate line item? Go ahead and add this as a separate line item for discussion next week, please.
Will do.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, moving on. Discuss a request for approval of the second phase agreement from Cloudwise. Mr. Ira Hall, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners and everyone. As already, my title suggests that I'm here to discuss the next phase of the broadband expansion and recommend that we enter into the agreement with Cloudwise on the phase 2 side of things. Mr. Sean Olson and Mr. Nico Leon from Cloudwise has joined us via Zoom. If you'll bring my presentation up for me. Thank you for joining us, Sean and Nico. Can you hear us? I just want to make sure this is working before I get too far into it. It's unmuted. Nico, can you try and say something one more time?
Shouldn't have technical difficulties from IT.
Yeah, you would think. And of course, we tested all this before it all started, and it worked perfectly, and there's no problems. So. Yeah, no, we need to go up. Since we can't get it to work, we got to get more stuff. Oh my goodness. So this is a great start, right?
We work on our fiber.
Yeah. Nico, will you try and talk one more time for me? It was working perfect right before the meeting.
Excuse me.
You can see him trying to talk. Seems like it's something on our end, on the speaker side.
Check, check.
There
Mic
we go.
check.
I heard one of you saying something. Is that you, Nika?
Okay. Yes, that's me. Mic check.
Awesome. All right. I think I got you now. So thank you for joining us. Did you want to say anything before I get started?
I don't think so. Go for it.
Okay. Awesome. So we're here to talk about phase 2, but I thought the best thing to do would to start out with the update on phase 1 and clarify where we are and help you understand why it's time to move on to phase 2. So let's go ahead and get started on some of this information. Click on that for me, Ben. On my presentation. Or, yeah. Oh, okay. If you'll just click on the presentation, I can't move my, there we go. Thank you. All right, so phase one, we've already completed 4 fixed wireless locations, the Northwest, Anger, Lilliton, Coates area. That's the green circles you see on the map. So all that's working. It's been working for, oh gosh, about a year, I guess now. So we've got customers in that, or CloudWise has customers, not we. Harnett County cannot do broadband, but CloudWise is doing broadband under those 4 circles. So everything's working great there. Fixed wireless is doing what we wanted it to do in these areas. And then we also have fiber, or CloudWise, I'm going to stop saying we. CloudWise has fiber rolled out in Lilliton and especially in the Northwest area. The big holdup of closing out phase one is DOT permits. We've been waiting, I know, at least 3 or 4 months, if not 6 months, for DOT permits on these particular. It might even be longer than that, and you guys can correct me if I'm giving too short a time frame, but it's taken a long time to get DOT permits for these things. And so once they get the permits and start putting the fiber in, we'll close phase one out and finish that project out as that. So hopefully, again, we're looking to complete this by the end of the year if we can get the DOT permit. So hopefully that'll be wrapped up pretty quick. Other thing I wanted to kind of mention is some other projects that CloudWise is doing in Harnett County that is not funded by anything from the Great Grants or from Harnett County or anything. They're putting fiber in Irwin and Dunn, which is really empowering them to be able to expand to areas that need more broadband. So they'll be able to use the fiber infrastructure they're putting in those areas to expand into the Great Grant particular areas. So I just want to kind of note that they are investing more in Harnett County outside of our funding. I'm not keeping up on my notes in my PowerPoint too. So we're going to move on into the phase two. Anybody have any questions around phase one and what CloudWise has done up to date before I move on into phase two and what we're going to do here, or what we're talking about doing? So about a year or so ago, CloudWise met with county leadership and just noted out some interest areas, areas that had needed broadband, needed the availability of broadband. Residents' requests for the broadband in these areas, just people that are outspoken that need broadband, and known areas of underserved and heavy growth occurring in these areas. So the white blocks are some of the ones that we kind of noted in that meeting, but the yellow block that I'm pointing out with my arrow is the one we're kind of focusing in on phase two. It just made a lot of sense on several levels, and I'll talk through that some more to kind of focus in on this particular area. So I'm going to jump into some explanations on NCDIT and FCC mapping right here. So you kind of, just to help pull all this together to understand why we're picking this particular area to go ahead and fund for phase two. So this is a broad overview map that I downloaded from the NC1 map on the state site. This is updated as of August 2023. This is the latest information that we have around availability of broadband. So talk a little bit about the legend before I get into the map itself. So it just kind of notes where there's a need for broadband across the road. So the purple area, if it's noted as a purple area, you'll see hexagons on the map in just a little bit. But if it's a purple area, that's like the perfect place to go. That's really needed broadband. Grants are available for that. That's where they want us to go and take care of. And then the yellow or cream or white areas are the ones that are, pretty covered with broadband and shouldn't need a lot of funding. So just to kind of note the other little things, the triangles are where people have responded to a survey that the state's doing. The yellow, green, and dark green dots are some great grant information, and I'll explain that a little bit more as I go through. In the marked out areas are just some other grants and other awards that have happened over the last 4 or 5 years. So let's just move on to the map. So as I noted, the purple areas, the great places for grant opportunities, and bad for broadband service. So if you live in the purple areas, it may be good because there's more availability of grants, but it's bad because you don't have broadband right now. So we're trying to focus in as much as possible on any of those colored in hexagons in the western part of the county at this point with phase 2, but yet not affect our ability to apply for future grants in the areas that we know we'll be able to get it as we can move forward with them. So we're trying to balance all of that, making sure that we cover areas that have need, but we don't ruin chances for grants because we've already paid for it in different ways and different shapes and forms. So it's kind of confusing on that. I'm just trying to clarify that as much as possible, but I'll keep moving on and see if you guys have any questions. So phase 2 areas, my little green hexagonal weird shaped thing that I tried to draw in there. It's not perfectly lined, but there's fiber throughout that area that Cloudwise is going to install. As you can see, it's covering a lot of the purple, a lot of the blue dots, but it has some cream or white color in there too. So it's covering more than just the absolute needed areas, but this is a great spot for us to go to close in some gaps. As you can see, there's a lot of purple dots north of that. That's really grant eligible. And then there's a lot of purple dots kind of west and south of that's grant eligible. So if we can put some infrastructure in here, knock out as many underserved homes, unserved homes in that area as we can, it'll help pull those 2 grant eligible areas together fiber-wise and make us ready kind of for the next steps to move into the grant eligible areas. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and just kind of give you a reference. So there's Highway 87, there's Highway 27 running there. There's the Food Lion, just to kind of give you a point of reference, in the Ben Haven schools out there, the elementary and the early college, just so you kind of know where we're heading at.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
So this would include the Western Heart Industrial Park?
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. So their plans are to run out to that the Ben Haven Elementary School. There will be some fiber that'll be nearby for availability there. So that'll be a great, another economic development service area. So I've already kind of talked about this, but it covers underserved areas, blue, purple, pink areas that are great. That's the ones we really need to hit. But it also fills in the gaps for the southern western part of the county and the northern western part of the county there in between everything. So it's just setting up, hopefully, for our next round of grants, either CAB or going back to the great grant, if we can finalize all that.
Can I ask the question?
Yes, ma'am.
I know I have some constituents out there in the 27 area back there in the rural area.
Yes.
Would this cover those people? Because it's much needed out there.
Yeah. There's a lot of those areas. There's a lot of areas under this green thing. I didn't draw the line specific just because of the proprietariness and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to make it general. But yeah, a lot of this area is going to have fiber laid across it, and it looks pretty exciting for those residents there.
Well, I am excited to hear that because I've had so many constituents that ask them about that. In fact, I've had one that comes to every meeting just to hear where we at with this issue.
Yeah, the exciting part about this is we're actually finally getting to the western part of the county, and that makes several of you happy.
Yes.
So, the other, I did want to mention during this process the GREAT grant, and it's still under litigation. It's moved from one court to another litigation spot. I'm not even, if Thomas or Chris wants to speak to it, I'll let them, but it's just moving through the process. We don't have anything final yet. So if we get some finality on that, a lot of these purple dots are going to be covered. And just to clarify, the yellow dots that you're seeing right now are currently the Brightspeed Award dots. They're not with the Cloudwise award dots aren't listed on here. So those are the two that are kind of under litigation in the court case, trying to figure out how it's all going to balance out, and just waiting for that decision to be made. But if for some reason we get both great grants, this is going to look really beautiful, and phase 2 makes a ton of sense. But we'll see how that plays out once the court's done. Trying to get caught up on my notes again. I apologize. So as we finish, if we move forward with phase 2, and well, I need to give you some details on phase 2. That's what I need to do next. So it's western part of the county, key number 1, in an area that we've marked as interest. I showed you that little yellow thing early on in the presentation of some areas that we are really interested in getting fiber in. This is an all fiber project. So and Cloudwise might want to speak to this some more too, but we just looked at the terrain, the tree coverage, the tower coverage, and all the other factors for fixed wireless, and it just really doesn't make sense in this part of the county for that part of it. And it also, because of the continued push to get higher bandwidth at each location, fixed wireless can provide 1 gigabit pretty easily, but the logistics of that and the equipment needed for that is just getting near impossible to do at this stage. Now, they continue to improve on fixed wireless and continue to expand things, but fiber is really the ultimate answer. And in an IT world, anytime I can get a physical connection instead of wireless, I'm much happier. So I think fiber is the best choice. So just wanted to clarify why this is just an all fiber project. And I believe that all of you in general think fiber is the ideal way to go. This is planned to start in January 2024 if we can move forward with this, and finish in January 2025, so it's going to happen pretty quick. The projected total cost of this project is around $6 million. The ask from Cloudwise is county allocation for $2 million. So let's kind of take us back to 2020 when we did the RFP and went into our initial agreement with Cloudwise. The original whole county project that we kind of looked at just to cover as much as we could was around $8 million. And they were asking for us at that point to do $4 million, and they would do $4 million. So fast forward to today, we did a $4 million roughly package up in the eastern north part of the county. And we helped fund $2 million of that through CARES Act funding, and now they're coming back and kind of looking for us to get the other $2 million out of the $4 million they'd asked from the original agreements process to do the second phase. And we've already got funding for this. We already allocated some of our lost revenue funding, so I'm not asking for any extra money. It's actually sitting there ready for us to roll with. But we just need to get this agreement in line and go ahead and move forward if this is what you guys would like to do. So we're looking to allocate $2 million over the next year towards this as they hit milestones, and that was all in the agreement. If you want to look at that, we can talk through that too. And this will roughly pass around 2,800 locations out there. So I'm pretty sure we're going to hit a majority of the ones that you're concerned about, Mrs. McCoy. I hope so. Any questions on any of those details? Anything that you want clarified? Good deal. Okay. So the other thing that Cloudwise is looking to do as they kick off phase 2, they're going to actually enter into the coats like they did with Dunn and Irwin. They're going to go into coats and just start rolling fiber out there. And the beauty of that, again, in that northeastern part of the county, that's a lot of the grant areas. So if they build fiber infrastructure there, that's going to set them up in availability for CAB or other future grant funding opportunities. So, but again, they're not asking for any cost or any allocation from us. That's just something they're doing on their own because it just makes sense for them. So to kind of look at the whole picture, just real quickly, if we do phase 2 and they continue into coats, it's really starting to mark up this map a little bit by little bit. Broadband is coming quickly to Harnett County. Not fast enough by any means, but a lot faster than it was 2 or 3 years ago. So, I don't know. I kind of talked a lot, Nico and Sean. I don't know if you want to say anything or if you want to add anything. I didn't give you opportunity. I planned to pause a little more.
we are more than happy to answer any questions, but I think you nailed it.
Any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say we've come a long ways.
Yeah.
This is a good report, a great report from where we have come from, because this is something we've been trying to do since 2014.
Yeah.
So I applaud you.
Yeah. It's been great, and I appreciate the support we've had over the last decade to get this moving forward. It's been nice to see some of this come to fruition.
Very nice. Outstanding. Pleasure of the board to add this to the consent agenda for approval next week.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, we'll add this to the consent agenda. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And moving on, discuss a request to accept the Department of Justice BJA grant funds for Veteran Treatment Court. Mr. Eric Truesdale, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. We came before you back in, I think, February and asked permission to apply for two different Department of Justice BJA grants. And the Veterans Treatment Court here in Harnett County has been awarded a $950,000 4-year grant to sustain this court into the future. And I have Mr. Zane Campbell here this morning, who's the director, and he would like to just fill you in on a few details on what that money will be used for. And we ask that you vote to accept this grant.
Good morning. Thank you all again for, you're going to have to excuse me, I got a little bit of the congestion that's been going around, but lung issues from burn pits, as some of you understand, make it a little worse. As Mr. Truesdale said, we did get approved for this $950,000 4-year grant, which I'm going to continue with, a promise that I made to y'all when I first took the director position is I'm going to do everything I can not to have to come to the county and ask for money. I've lived up to that so far, I believe. Granted that we have, when I first took over, we had a $176,000 deficit in our budget. Was able to rework all that without asking for any taxpayer money. So I think we're well on our way to proving that this court is not only needed here in Harnett County, but is also stable. With that being said, just a quick side note is, I don't know if y'all are aware, but we recently had a visit from Justice for Vets, which is a national agency as part of the All Rise, the National Association of Drug Court Professionals, and we received one of the best evaluations that we've received in the history of this court, to the extent that we're starting to get some national spotlight where they've asked us to consider being a mentor court, one of 6 in the nation that would actually train other veterans courts that are getting ready to start up. So, we're doing big things across the parking lot over there. And with this grant, there's several things on here that make me very happy. And one of them is half of my staff is going to be fully funded for the next 4 years on this grant. We're able to rework some budgeting things to look at providing some raises to get the staff over there to the point where they should be on pay. And we're able to do all that without, coming and having to ask for money. So we do ask that y'all approve this. This is also going to cover training for staff. We go to an annual conference every year. It's in different locations. And this is going to cover some of our treatment and therapy modalities that we provide at no cost to our veterans, as well as all of our drug testing services. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
I do have a comment. I would like to thank you for your leadership, not only with the Veterans Court and what you do, but also the sound financial footing you have placed it upon. That has been very impressive and very much appreciated. But I will ask the question. I'm assuming by the comments that this grant requires no matching funds.
Yes, sir. So it does require a match. However, we have identified a match in kind. Okay. So with the Eric and Amy and all their work that they do, the judge, the elected DA, the clerk of courts, all those things that come to us at no cost, we're able to utilize those as a match in kind.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great job.
Any other questions or comments?
And I'd also like to, I did bring some stuff for y'all to hand out, but November the 8th is the 10-year anniversary of our court. It's going to be at 2:30. Since I'm here in front of you, I wanted to obviously invite all of you in person. But I'll also be sending y'all out like a little formal invitation as a reminder. So I hope you can all make it.
Thank you. Pleasure of the board to add this to the consent agenda for approval next week.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Madam Clerk, we'll add this to the consent agenda as well. Thank you. All right, discuss or
Come up and hand y'all these.
yes, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for everything you do. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the great work and the thing, and the part that Hunter County started this for the state.
Yes, ma'am. We're the first.
We're first in the state.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, discuss a request for the board to consider a resolution authorizing a grant and/or a loan application, NCDEQ. Mr. Steve Ward, if you would, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If you remember last week, we talked about the lead and copper inventory that we're required to do by federal mandate. The USCPA is requiring that. That's due this fall. There's some funding out there that the state is administering. It's federal money to help utilities to complete the inventory and start this process. So I'm here asking the board to authorize us to apply for that grant funding from the state. I think the deadline is November the 1st. So if you could add that to the agenda on the next meeting, the consent agenda, we can go ahead and apply for those funds. I think the max grant's $500,000. There's no match.
Questions or comments from Mr. Ward?
Put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I think will this help with the Irwin project?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. It's countywide. It'll be everybody we serve falls under the inventory, but yeah, a lot of that will be centered in Irwin just because of the age of some of the homes in the area.
Thank you. That's a good thing.
I agree.
Thank you. I'm hearing the pleasure of the board to add this to the consent agenda as well. Add that next week as well, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, discuss Jetport ground lease with CAD Enterprises. Chris Appel, good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Here before you to discuss another revision to a ground lease we have. This would be the final one of the what I call the complicated leases out there, so very happy about that. Again, this lease is utilizing the one that's been developed over the last couple of years that we're using. I'll just hit on some of the highlights of this. This involves CAD Enterprises, and I apologize this wasn't in the packet. We came to a final agreement as of yesterday on this one, so I didn't get it put in the packet. But CAD Enterprises is the T hangars that's located at the end of runway 5. So on this map, this is the CAD Enterprises down here. It's one of our older hangars that we've had at this airport, and again had one of the complicated leases. So this new one, it is a 10-year lease with one 5-year renewal, so 15 years. The added additional item on there is if we as the county don't give notice at least 6 months prior to the end of those 15 years that we have secured funding to build those additional T hangars, that they would have the option to renew for another 5 years. So again, and this isn't the most updated plan, but the proposed plan is to build T hangars that would go across their area. I think total, I forget what the newest version is, but it's either 6 or 7 T hangars, 3 of which would go over their area. So there are proposed plan improvements in the future, but if we did not secure funding to build those new T hangars at the end of 15 years, they would have the option to renew for another 5. So potential total of 20 total years. Another item in here is the relocation provision. Again, if there are planned improvements during their term, again, the planned improvements to build T hangars, taxiways, whatever it may be, they can be relocated to another area, another location on the airport. If we did relocate them, they would be compensated for lost rent, which is in line with other leases that we've put in our relocation provisions. They would be responsible for the cost of movement, but we just pay them for their lost rents during that time. If no suitable location could be found for them to be moved to, then we would pay for the value of the hangar at that time, again, similar to a condemnation action, which you're paying them for the value of their improvements. Again, standard, that's we put in our other leases. Another item we did put in there to come to an agreement on this new lease, did give them a right of first refusal. So again, in that area, that immediate vicinity where we are planning on building new T hangars, they would have the first right to enter into a new ground lease if one was made available. They'd be first in line. If they turned it down, then obviously you'd go to the next individual. But that was just part of kind of the bargaining chip that we came to, is they would have a chance to lease another area. The rent for this, just to let you know, currently under the old lease, the rent was $1,764. The new rent moving forward will be $3,088.85. So that is an increase. And just let you know, since this dispute started, we haven't, I don't think, cashed rent checks in the last 8 years or so. That was prior to me coming here. We have not cashed those rent checks. We've been holding on to them. So we've not been getting any revenue. We did agree to have them pay 2 years of back rent for $3,528, just because we were in dispute, but they've agreed to back pay 2 years. Then moving forward, we'll get that increased rent. At the end of the first 3 years of the lease, and then every 2 years thereafter, it will increase the lesser of 3% or CPI. Again, another key item is that they have to comply with all airport rules and regulations and FAA regulations, and they have to maintain their facility at their cost and keep in good quality, sanitary, and safe order. So again, they'll have to ensure that this thing is kept up just like every other hangar in this airport. So those are kind of the highlights. Again, everything else in here is the same language that everyone else has gotten that I've presented to you as of late. This would be the final lease to get done, so I would ask that this be approved. As it stands right now, I'll get into details about the legal action, but if you all want to move forward putting this on consent, I'll take a dismissal of our summary ejectment proceeding that I have filed, and it's actually scheduled for this Thursday. But I'll go ahead and file a notice of dismissal if this board is okay with moving forward with approving this lease.
And this contract is like all the other contracts for all the other hangars.
All the newest ones, the ones that we've been negotiated of all the other hangars that we've had to resolve. This is in line. You know, obviously the few tweaks of the details that I went over, but the same 28 to 30 page lease with all the same terms are in here that everyone else is getting.
But this brings all of our leases in line with FAA regulations.
Correct. So this would be the final one that's just been problematic. We get this done. This is it. That would bring that saga to an end.
Well, I want to commend you and your folks for getting us to this point. I think approximately 3 years ago, you invited me to a meeting out at the terminal, the old terminal, with Commissioner Johnson and maybe Thomas, and explained the issues that we had with leases being out of compliance with FAA regulations. And then when Commissioner Weatherspoon joined the board, I think we basically realized this is something that had to be fixed. And I know it's been a long, difficult process, but I'm happy to see that we are there. And so I thank you for your efforts. And as the airport continues to move forward and continues to become a driving force in our economic development efforts, I'm really happy to hear this news this morning. I would recommend we put it on the consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your patience and allowing me to get this done.
I would just ask, how many other projects do we have to fulfill out there to the airport? Because we've been working on this about 4 years, right? 4 years or more.
Since 2021.
21. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying that have we just about finalized all the different projects that we have to do out there?
It's a running
lot of
work. We're right on track
We're
right now.
getting there, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
runway's looking great. You know, this was the last issue out there, so we can start planning ahead with the master plan or start tackling the master plan.
And this is good because it's in line with the expansion that's planned for at the airport. So to get this under control so we can move forward the expansion of additional hangars and runway and wherever it may be, this is a good timing to get this all resolved.
Oh, good, a lot of work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Pleasure of the board to add this consent agenda for next week. We'll go ahead and add this next week to the consent agenda, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, ARPA projects update and consideration of projects. Ms. Sally Fouts, good morning.
Good morning. So I last gave you an update in March. This one hopefully will be much more brief. But just wanted to give you an idea of where we're at with our ARPA funding as well as our displaced funding. So just to review from where we began, we were allocated $26,411,744 in American Rescue Plan Act funds. So of that, $10 million was displaced, which left $16 million for ARPA eligible projects. And the four eligibility categories are response to the pandemic, infrastructure investments, premium pay, and lost revenue replacement. So let's see, we'll dive into why premium pay is crossed off that list. Just want to remind you the eligibility categories, and then so then the displaced funds, the $10 million, this is now general fund money. It can be used at any time for anything, no restrictions, no timeline requirements, but we are excited about the opportunities that this extra money opens up for projects. So yes, moving forward, we're going to start with the ARPA eligible projects we have going on right now. So first, the EMS premium pay. The first premium payout was in December of 2022, totaling just over $100,000. On April 10th, however, the U.S. Congress ended the national emergency, which is great news, but not great news for premium pay, because now the premium pay is no longer an eligible category. So our first payment is still valid, but we can no longer use ARPA eligible funds. So that's why in July, I came to you with an updated policy. Basically, we ended the EMS premium pay policy, and we introduced a new EMS retention pay policy for the remaining 3 payments, and the only difference between these two policies is the source of funds. So we'll revisit that on the other end when we get to the displaced funding. So in the eyes of the Treasury, our EMS premium pay using ARPA eligible funds is completed. So we can move on. So next up is Viper radios. So firstly, we allocated funding for purchasing Viper radios for county staff, including Harnett EMS, Hearts, Harnett Regional Water, and the Sheriff Department, as well as all local fire departments within the county. So we realized later on that radios were not purchased for local police departments, and the law enforcement were basically the only public workers left out of this list. So on the first round, we did expend just over $5.6 million on the Viper radios, and then last March, you all approved allocating $2 million for the purchase of additional Viper radios for the police departments within our county. So our most recent estimate from Motorola will be $1.5 million to purchase the remaining radios. So this is in progress, but hopefully will be completed soon. So our next project is the DSS second floor upfit. So as I'm sure you all remember, we have a shell space on the second floor of the extension a few years ago of the DSS department. And so the Department of Social Services throughout the pandemic has definitely outgrown their space, and they are now in need of much more office space. And the feasibility study agreed with this statement, recommending that this is turned into workspace. So let's see, just a few weeks back, you all approved a contract with Mosley Architects. So they're going to help us get the first phase of this project moving, which would be to create a design for this shell space. So once they create the design and it is approved by our DSS staff, then we will bid out the project for construction. So far we have obligated just over $100,000 to Mosley, and then that still leaves plenty more because the original allocation was, I believe, $1.2 million. Yeah, so we're moving in that direction too. Next up, we have broadband matches, which Ira did foretell. So we are still basically waiting announcements on both the GREAT grant and the CAB grant due to the litigation. That's kind of complicating things, but we are still expecting to provide a match of $750,000 in total for the GREAT grant and about $2 million for the CAB grant. Again, we're waiting announcements on the CAB grant. That is a newer program, so it just depends, but the match will be no higher than $2 million. So that's kind of where we're at. It's a good waiting game. So the North Harnett Wastewater Treatment Plant, Steve can definitely talk more to this than I can, but as of now, the good news is that we have received the blessing from the state to move forward with this project, so we hope to start bidding out this massive project in November.
Actually, the end of October, but it may move to mid-November, so that's pretty accurate.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So hopefully within the next few months, we can start bidding out this very large project. All right, so moving on to displaced funding. So again, this is general fund money, no timeline obligations, no special requirements other than we just have to our normal governmental using the guidelines. Sorry. Okay. So EMS retention pay, as I mentioned, we made the first payment using ARPA eligible funds. The second payment, which was this June, was our first payment from supplanted funds. So now every other payment after this will look like this. So our second payment totaled $105,000, and we will have 2 more payouts coming from this displaced funding in December of this year and then next June. So we're looking good there. For ARPA administration, so originally the plan was to use the Lead for NGC Fellowship to assist with the grants management, specifically for ARPA. The first year of this program ended up being $15,000, so that one we can check off. However, we were not chosen to participate in the fellowship for a second year, so to provide assistance with the grants management, a temporary position was created called the management analyst. That's me. So salary and fringes for this position shall not exceed $100,000 over this 18-month temporary position. Moving on, again, Ira gave you some good updates for his cybersecurity and broadband projects using displaced funding. So the IT River fiber extension was completed a few months ago. We ended up expending just under $150,000 on this. Next up is the Office 365 cloud migration. I believe the programming is all done for this, but we have one more payment to make, totaling about $1 million. And then the fixed wireless broadband phase 2 match is what Ira just presented on, so we are excited for that to be moving. Next up, we have the Riverside Community Flood Remediation Project. So Lynn Lambert gave an update on this a few months back, I believe. But just to refresh your memory, so we've allocated $750,000 to this project. Phase 1 and Phase 2 are completed. That is replacing culverts, cleaning out the ditches, and removing the abandoned tires. So Phase 3 will be bid out in winter due to the snakes, so that one will be coming soon. And then Phase 4 is just to be determined. And last but not least, the funding for the Harnett Regional Jetport. So we've allocated $2.5 million to the Jetport of this displaced funding. And just a few weeks ago, the board approved the purchase of land for expanding this Jetport, costing just under $2 million, but also closing costs. So again, we are looking good. So that completes all of the projects that we have in motion. Moving forward, this is the thing I've just put in front of you today. So this is our overview. It's a lot to digest, so I'll just talk through it a little bit. Obviously, we have the first, so the top, the green part is our ARPA eligible money. Again, that's deadlines. That has to be one of the now 3 eligible categories. Or I guess now it's 2, because anyway. And then the bottom part, displaced funding, no timelines, no requirements. So you can see the allocations column, the allocations columns, that was each funding plan basically that you all have approved over time. And then on the right hand side, we have how much we've obligated and how much we've expended for that project. So yeah, that would be a helpful way to kind of visualize all of it at once. So you'll notice we have just about $100,000 as of now remaining for contingency within our ARPA eligible projects. So that means that we are not going to allocate any more money for ARPA eligible projects. We're just going to have to see how the broadband matches go and everything and hope that we don't run out of ARPA eligible money for the projects. So what's left is the displaced funding. So again, no timeline on this. But that said, we are looking to move forward. So the first project that we would like to just bring to your consideration today is the Shawtown Alumni Association Water and Sewer Project. So we do want you to consider covering the costs of running a water sewer to the site where the Shawtown Alumni Association intends to build their community center. Now, we do not have a solidified price cost estimate for this, so we cannot ask your formal approval today, but we do ask that you consider this. We will return with a more formal proposal when we have a solidified cost estimate. And the Shawtown High School Alumni Association members are here if you have further questions about this project. So the second project that we are asking for action on is a digital literacy class. So throughout the last year, we've partnered with Cloudwise to provide digital literacy classes in our community, and they found this to be very helpful, and the community members loved them. So if, with your blessing, we hope to allocate $5,000 to 2 more rounds of these classes, one to be completed this year and then one to be completed next spring. And then we can continue promote digital literacy in our community. But that is all for today. So are there any further questions? Ira is also available, obviously, if you have more questions about that one.
I have a question. Where are we at on this farmer's market here? Are we moving any at all on that or what?
Great question. I believe Lynn Lambert is working on kind of building a more formal proposal for that.
Affordable houses. We are making any movement on that or what?
At this point, we don't have any particular proposals to request funding for on affordable housing. And so that is part of what we're working on as far as reserving. Still $3 million is available. So if we can develop a project that we would like to fund, that $3 million is still set aside to be used for whatever project the board would choose. So if we're able to develop a project for affordable housing, that is an alternative for the use of that $3 million you see at the bottom of that spreadsheet. Okay. So that's the part that we need to do, is really determine what our options are and where we could assist potentially on a project.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, simply because I know the town of Littleton is moving forward on affordable houses, and I can't understand why the county can't do something too for affordable houses, because I know that the houses that are being built here now, it's just not affordable, not even for a school teacher. So that is something we really do need to see moved in some type of direction to see that we get that. Some affordable houses. These are not free houses, just affordable for citizens here that live here based on their wages and all. Income, let me say it right, based on their income.
Any other questions or comments? Did you need an approval for that $5,000 for the literacy program? Is that something that was a request? Do I hear pleasure of the board on the request for digital literacy and the amount of $5,000 to continue that program going?
I don't have a problem with it.
Any issue? Go ahead and add that to the consent agenda for approval next week as well, please.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me ask one more question.
Yep.
Is there a deadline for us to spend this money? Because I've heard some talk in the media about they wanting some of this money refunded, sent back to Washington. Is there a deadline for us to spend this money?
Yes. The top portion you see in the spreadsheet, the green, that is required to be expended by December 31 of 2024.
Okay.
And so any of those projects that we have, we basically need to have them under contract so that we've committed the funds. By getting it under contract, that's what we'll do. Now, if we get closer to that date and we're not able to, for example, we are not successful with getting a CAB grant, and that $2 million is still sitting there, before we get to December 2024, we will need to commit that to the wastewater treatment project. As you see, that is a $75+ million project, and they could use additional funding, and that's an eligible project. So we will make sure that we dedicate anything left over by December of 2024 will be moved over as being spent on the wastewater treatment project, so that we do not lose our use of those funds, and we have that as our fallback. If the other projects that we've chosen don't work out, we'll have a fallback to make sure we're eligible. Now, the $3 million at the bottom, that has no timeline. That is basically general fund money. It's ours. It's accounted for as being spent, and so that $3 million, according to the federal government, is considered to be spent. And so we can use that on whatever timeline we would choose. We set it aside. Kimberly has it set aside in a separate fund so that we're able to utilize it once we determine a project we feel is the right one to use.
God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, discussion regarding the permit modification for Martin Marietta Materials. Commissioner Weatherspoon, if you want to kick us off with this, sir.
Yeah, a number of months ago, Martin Marietta went to the Wake County Board of Adjustments seeking approval to expand a quarry that they have down in southern Wake County that borders Harnett County. No one from Harnett County was notified of this meeting. The first we heard about it was when some of the residents that live in that area started complaining that Martin Marietta planned to come through their neighborhood with dump trucks of material on the way to Highway 42. So what I'm asking the board is to let's prepare and send a letter to NCDEQ opposing this expansion until they can find a way to go in and out of the quarry other than through Harnett County's road. That would help tremendously. And I've only heard of one citizen that wasn't opposed to it, and he doesn't live there.
And excuse me, to add on, Commissioner, and DEQ, when looking at comments, they're looking at 7 different items, and it's that the permit would violate their article. The operation would have unduly adverse effects on potable groundwater supplies, wildlife and freshwater or marine fisheries. The operation will violate standards of air quality, surface water quality, groundwater quality. The operation will constitute a direct and substantial physical hazard to public health and safety. That the operation will have a significantly adverse effect on the purposes of a publicly owned park, forest, or recreation area. Previous experience with similar operations indicates a substantial possibility that the operation will result in substantial deposits of sediment in streams, lakes, landslides, or acid water pollution, and that the applicant has a prior history of failing to comply. So if the board so chose to want to move forward, you'd have to tie it back in. So the ingress and egress tied back into a health and safety issue, not necessarily maybe an issue of too heavy for the roads. That's a DOT issue. But if we wanted to send a letter that could be a health and safety issue or one of those other items, this board can submit a comment to DEQ for the review. I know some others have submitted written comments as well.
Like to direct legal in order to come up with something?
What?
So would you like to direct legal in order to come up with?
Yeah, if we could have a letter by our meeting next week on Monday, so we could sign it and get it to NCDEQ, if the board would agree to that.
How's the board feel in regards to that?
I'm good with it.
So yeah, I'll draft something and present it for your review.
Outstanding.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you,
Good deal.
Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Anything further on that item, sir? County Manager's Report, Mr. Trout.
Did you want to go back to boards and committees? Boards, appointments, board appointments?
Item 15.
You missed.
Oh, how about that? Look at that. Review items, applications, to serve on boards and committees. Commissioners, in front of you, you have a packet along with an application from Miss Rose Ferguson from District 2 for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, as well as for the Board of Equalization and Review.
Mr. Chair, based on the comment of the citizens only being able to be appointed to 2 boards and Ms. Ferguson's preference to be appointed to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, that would be my recommendation.
I agree with that.
Definitely.
Okay, we'll go ahead and add Miss Rose Ferguson on the consent agenda for approval for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Program, please. And there is also another application for the Historic Properties Commission from Miss Stephanie Taylor.
Is there another application? Oh, I see now, you got it over there. Could I address the board a minute
Yes,
on this
ma'am.
issue? I have a constituent that, not in my district, but I think he's
He's in my district.
He wants to serve on this committee. I know this is a district sensitive issue here. So I told him I would have to talk to the board and see if you all were willing to appoint him. It's Desi Campbell. He's already involved in this issue of research for the history of Harnett County as well as for the African Americans here in this county. If the board would approve him, I would ask him to fill out the application so it could be.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with,
And he's from District 4?
yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
I know that I can see there's not it is district sensitive, but we have 2 alternates. So I don't see how that would be a problem, actually. So does anybody have an opposition to gentleman filling out an application at the least?
No, at this point, even under the current guidelines, we could certainly appoint him as an alternate. With all these vacancies, he would be able to be seated for probably a good while. If we get to a point that we need to look at expanding that to one non-district sensitive position, we can always look at that. So that'd be my recommendation.
Commissioner McCoy, if you can get with that individual?
Yes, I can, and I certainly appreciate the board considering him. I know that I have been one to voice my opinion about, these people be appointed by districts and all, but this is an extenuating circumstance. That's the reason I'm asking, because we're not getting many appointments for this. So, and I know that this is something he's very interested in.
If 5
I have him to
vacancies.
fill out an application.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Outstanding.
No credentials.
I just talked with Commissioner Morris about the applicant from District 2 for the Historic Properties Commission, and he has no problem with that, so I would recommend we move her forward as well.
If we would add Miss Stephanie Taylor to the Historic Properties Commission for District 2.
Will do.
All right, outstanding. And I'll encourage the other commissioners as well to look at these vacancies, and if they can think of somebody, please recommend them. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the county manager's report. Mr. Trout.
Thank you, Chairman. The one item that I have for discussion, for consideration on adding to the consent agenda is that the NCDOT brought to us a request to abandon a portion of Osley Road, SR 1422 as it also is known, and that would be from SR 1422 Osley Road to Cokesbury Road. It's a .18 period. The residents are okay with this change. They actually have issues with deliveries in this area. If they try to go down this, what amounts to a dirt path, and staff is fine with the request for abandonment as well, partial abandonment.
The DOT is going to be abandoning this road?
Yes, they've requested for consideration to abandon the road, and right now, no one objects to that partial abandonment.
So it becomes a private road after that, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Right, so has somebody spoken to these individuals that live on the road to make sure they have a private road maintenance
I
agreement?
think they requested it, didn't they?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
so.
All right.
Yes.
They requested the abandonment.
Oh, well, then too easy then.
Yes.
All right. All right, is there any issue with adding State Road 1422 on Osley Road as a partial road abandonment? The consent agenda for next week. Issues? We'll go ahead and add that to the consent agenda for next week as well, Madam Clerk.
That's all I have, Chairman.
Outstanding. We have a closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into closed session to consult with the county's legal counsel in order to preserve attorney-client privilege concerning the handling of certain litigation, including the following: the matter on appeal of Jackson Family Enterprises before the Property Tax Commission, 22 PTC 0259, and a personnel matter.
A motion for closed session. A motion and a second for closed session. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All right, we're moving to closed session.
Thank you.
Me too.
Thank you. Speaking of about visiting, allowing visitors to
I didn't know what I did.
You did all right, but that's a good thing.
Appreciate it. Listen, if you need anything else, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for what you do.
Thank you for the hard work you're doing.
Who is that gentleman talking to Alan?
He's one of the members of the Shoptown League. He's from your area. That's Jimmy.
Okay, from Andrew. Okay, I knew I recognized him, I just couldn't think of his name. Okay.
That's what I heard. As far as I know.
Unless you know.
Yes, she was here Yes, she was back yesterday, but she signed a few
He sent me something about $250,000. That was just before. Did I have to have a suit? That's what I told her.
Betty, the two of you. So those were. Thank you.
It's like a lab project. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. You hate that, John. So you will miss you. That's me.
I don't really know, like, this last time I had to go hush hush. It's gonna be me, but I can't say.
Oh, it is me.
But
Now you never have to really talk about it again.
it's so awkward, so thank you. Yeah, next time. Yay! This is exciting.
Once I've got them, Motorola's already working with the towns to get their programming code. Did you do police and fire?
Fire was the first round.
What you do for us? $2 million.
$6 million.
I mean, just on the police. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the second time we're doing this.
Wow. So, yeah. So, yeah, what have you done? A whole lot. Yeah. Shall we make a list?
Yeah. Got the broadband coming in.
Shall we just get it made?
And if I get those mobiles in the next 60 days, once those are in, it's gonna be the program. Got those radios, and radios I ordered.
Regardless.
motion in closed session to reconvene in open session. I'll call the meeting back to order.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. We are adjourned.
All right.